Hey friends, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video we are going to talk about all of my fall anticipated releases. Hey, I would like to introduce everyone to Luna. Luna is the newest member of our family and she is making her YouTube debut. Hi! So it is officially September, and when September hits, I say fall, I say Halloween, and I am just ready to thrive. This is just my favorite time of year, and I know a lot of people say that, and that's totally fine. All of us fall girlies, that's where it's at. I love the weather, I love the activities that are associated with fall, I love Halloween, I love Thanksgiving, I love football, I love it all. So I am here with my maple bourbon latte. Don't worry, there's no real alcohol in it yet. But I thought it'd be really fun to sit down and talk about all of the books that I am looking forward to being released in the fall season. So I'm going to talk about books that will be released in September, October, and November. And you know what? I just feel like 2023 is a really great year of releases. There's a lot on my list. I actually had to cut it down quite a bit so this wasn't like an hour-long video. But I'm going to talk about 15 books that I am excited for in the fall season of 2023. So by the time you're seeing this video, is probably midway through September at this point, so some of these books might have already been released and on the shelves, and so I will definitely be running to get them. But without further ado, let's go ahead and start with the month of September. So for September, most of my anticipated releases are going to fall under thriller, horror, and I do have a couple of fantasy ones. I think it's just kind of fitting because we're moving into fall, we're moving into spooky season, so a lot of those type genres are going to be putting out a lot of books. So the first book in September that I'm looking forward to being released is This Is How We End Things by R.J. Jacobs. This will be released on September 12th. So this is a psychological thriller that is following a group of graduate psychology students. These students are currently studying the psychology behind lying. So when one of them is discovered dead, after one of their experiments go a little awry, they find themselves trapped in a snowstorm with a local detective. The group must find out who's lying, who's not, and who's possibly capable of murder. This one sounds really interesting. I love isolated thrillers. I love when they're kind of stuck in close proximity and it's a whodunit. I like the idea of them all being these people who study lying. So I feel like it's going to be really hard to figure out who's lying and who's not because they kind of know the psychology behind it. They know the strategies to kind of get away with lying. I've never read from this author before, so I'm looking forward to getting into it, and it's going to be the perfect season for a good thriller. So the next September book release that I'm really looking forward to is going to be Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. This is going to be released on September 19th. This is also from the author that wrote Luckiest Girl Alive, and I really enjoyed that book. It was a little triggering for me, but it was really great, and I did like the Netflix adaptation with Mila Kunis, so highly recommend that. So this story is a little bit different, and it is inspired by the campus killings from Ted Bundy in Florida in the late 70s. So this is following Pamela. Pamela is a sorority president who decides one night to just stay in and not really do anything, but she wakes up to find many of her sorority sisters have been attacked and are no longer with us. And so she's kind of just grappling with the fact that she's lost a lot of her friends, and she's trying to figure out what is going on. This is also following Tina, who lives across the country in Seattle, and when one of her best friends goes missing, she is also seeking the truth, and on that, she kind of finds this link to the incident that's happened in Florida. So Tina flies out to Florida and teams up with Pamela, and the two of them work together to figure out really what happened to both of their friends. I'm really looking forward to this one. I really enjoy The Luckiest Girl Alive, and I love true crime, and I just find Ted Bundy very interesting and just more complex than what he looks like on the surface. So I'm interested to see how Jessica Knoll interweaves his story with what's happening to these women. Next, I have Black Sheep, written by Rachel Harrison. This will be released on September 19th. This one is, I believe, a horror. I mean, look at this cover. It's absolutely stunning. I love the contrast between the pink and black and the play on the black sheep. So this story is actually following Vesper. Vesper grew up in a very strict and very unorthodox religious family, and she has decided to leave that family. But leaving that family means that she can no longer return. But she gets a random invitation to one of her beloved cousin's weddings and has decided, okay, they must be breaking the rule, but I want to go support my cousin, so I'm going to go visit this wedding. However, when she returns, her homecoming exposes a very dark secret of her family's past, and she has to kind of grapple with her family's very unconventional values and beliefs. I'm getting cult vibes from this one, and it's been a minute since I've read a cult book, and I think this is going to be a perfect read during spooky season, and I just want this cover on my shelf. Next, we have Champion of Fate by Kendare Blake, and this is set to release on September 19th. This one is a YA fantasy, I believe. It has been a very long time since I've read from this author, but I did enjoy her series with the Three Dark Crowns, I believe it was. But this synopsis just sounded really, really interesting. So we're having this world where we have these female warriors called the Aristine. They're basically the hero makers. Ever since Reed was a orphan, she has always wanted to become one of the Aristines, and she will stop at nothing to actually accomplish that goal. Now that she is so close to accomplishing that goal, she has one final challenge. She must champion her hero to win in battle. She thinks it's in the bag until she meets her actual hero, Hestion. Hestion is fiery and infuriating, and what kind of started off with aggravation is turning into more. And now Reed must choose between the life that she had always planned and the life that she didn't expect. I think the idea of seeing what happens behind like kind of the heroes that we typically think of, like Hercules and whatnot, I think that kind of sounds a little interesting, and I'm just looking forward to reading from this author again because, like I said, it's been a very long time. So the final book that I am excited to be released in the month of September is going to be The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. This is set to be released on September 26th. So this is set in the same world as The Darker Shades of Magic. So there are these 4 worlds that are pulsing with power, and they're all connected by a single city of London. However, the magic grew so powerful that as a way to protect their worlds, they have sealed the doors of traveling between these worlds. The few magicians that could travel in between have basically all passed, and there's only 3 that are known to still be able to have that ability. So when conflict begins to arise within all of these different Londons, there's only one person that can either bring them all together or completely unravel them, and her name is Tess. I am very excited for this one. I love V.E. Schwab's writing. I think they do a fantastic writing within the fantasy realm. I really liked Addie LaRue. There were some things that I wish there was a little bit more, but Vicious and Vengeful are 2 of my favorite books from them, and I can't wait to see what continues on with the Darker Shade of Magic universe. So let's go ahead and hop into the October releases. So first we have Let Us Descend by Jesmyn Ward. This was going to be released on October 3rd. So this one is following Annie, who has been sold into slavery by her master, who has also fathered her. So she's making this trek to the south. So as she struggles through this miles-long march, she seeks comfort from the memories of her mother and the stories of her warrior ancestors. She begins to open herself to a world that's beyond ours, one of myth and mysteries, one of spirits that love but also manipulate. It says that this miracle of a novel inscribes Black American grief and joy into the very land, the rich and forgiving forests, the swamps and rivers of the American South. I really, really love Jesmyn Ward's writing. I think that she does a fantastic job with just invoking emotion of real stories, but intermixing bits of magic. So she's definitely a magical realism author in my opinion, and her points are so on the dot and poignant, and you just feel so much by reading her work. I cannot wait to dig into this one. I know it's going to break my heart, but as soon as it's released, I will be running to pick up a copy. So the next one I think is just going to be really, really silly, but really, really fun. And that's going to be The Scandalous Confessions of Lydia Bennet, Witch. This is set to be released on October 3rd. This is just like a fun reimagining of the Pride and Prejudice after the current events that we know from the original story. And it's all told from Lydia Bennet's perspective, and we get just a little bit of fun magical elements to it. So her beloved sister Kitty is in fact a cat, and Wickham is as awful as everyone thought, but what could you expect from a demon? If you thought Mr. Darcy was uptight, imagine him when he is in contact with magic. But Lydia has to learn that when you have magic, promises become power. I just think this is going to be really fun. I always thought Lydia Bennet was a very interesting character. Just was, you know, a little frustrating, but she was very young, and I think it'll be very interesting to see the spin of her being a witch and Wickham being a demon. And I just love retellings, and especially when retellings are a little bit more silly and fun. I don't know, I think this will just be a really fun like Halloween read to kind of break up the typical horror that I read during that season. So then I have The Night Hunt, written by Alexandra Christo. This is set to be released on October 10th. So this is following Atia. Atia is a monster that feeds off of fear. She is the last of her kind and basically lives in the shadows to escape the very unpredictable gods. Silas is a herald who is carrying messages back and forth with really no memory of his past and how he got to this point. But when the gods send some monsters to hunt Atia down, Silas offers her a deal. He says that he will help her if in turn she helps to break his curse and reveal his true identity. All they need to do is kill 3 things: a vampire, a banshee, and the gods that destroyed both of their lives. Only them together can write their own destinies. This just sounds really interesting, and I really like the idea that the female lead is a monster and maybe a little more morally gray. I love when we see characters teaming up together to really just work with each other to benefit their own agenda and kind of see where that goes. The thought of some mythology with some gods just really intrigues me, and I'm excited to pick up a copy of this one. Next, I have Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. This will be released on October 10th. I'm a little apprehensive about this one, but I do want to give it a try. I tried to read Cassandra Clare, her Immortal Instruments series, and I could barely get through the first book, and I was afraid that maybe I had just missed that whole train, that maybe I'd outgrown that realm of YA, but I know that she is such a beloved author. This is actually going to be an adult fantasy novel, so maybe I could enjoy it a little bit more. It says that 2 outcasts find themselves caught in a web of forbidden love, dangerous magic, and dark secrets that could change the world forever. I just think, for one, this cover is absolutely stunning, but I think I'm just really wanting to give her a try in the adult fantasy genre. So my last book that I'm excited for to be released in the month of October is going to be Julia by Sandra Newman. This is set to be released on October 19th. This is a retelling of George Orwell's 1984, but it's written from the perspective of Julia, which was Winston Smith's lover. So I think that we're going to get a little more of an idea of what that world existed like, where Julia came from, and kind of what happens to Julia in that book. I really like 1984. It's been a very, very long time since I've read it. I think it was probably high school when I picked up 1984. Well, for fun, not for class, because I was weird like that back in the day. Either way, I think it'd be fun to do a 1984 read and then hop into Julia and kind of compare the retellings. I just really like retellings. Okay, so let's get into the final month of fall, which is going to be November. The first book in November that I am excited to be released is going to be Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This is set to be released on November 7th. I have just fell in love with Ali Hazelwood this year, and when I realized that she's getting another release just a few months after her summer release, I'm really, really excited, and I'm interested to see, because this is actually going to be a YA romance. So this is following 2 chess players, Mallory and Nolan. Mallory has always loved chess, but the game has kind of taken it a little too far and basically destroyed her family. So she's just going to let it go and focus on her family and her job. But she decides to participate in one last charity chess game or chess match where she actually unexpectedly beats Nolan, who is the reigning world champion of chess and known as the King Killer. Nolan's loss to a essential newbie has shocked everyone, and it has opened a lot of doors for Mallory, and she's realizing how much she truly loves the game, and this rivalry may be a little bit more. I'm really excited about this one. I'm interested to see what Ali Hazelwood does with YA. I usually like her spice, so I don't know how that's gonna go in this different genre, but it's Ali, so I'm gonna be reading it. Next, we have The Engagement Party by Finley Turner, which is set to be released on November 7th. This is a thriller about Cass, who is newly engaged to Murray. Before they could even get the news out of their engagement, they receive an invitation to an engagement party hosted by his very, very affluent family. And what's really strange is that she starts to get some very threatening social media messages. On the night of the party, a body is found and they are left to basically figure out who did it. Well, because Cass is an outsider, all eyes are on her. She must prove her innocence despite her very, very dark past. This is giving like the Family Game vibes, or maybe The Guest List. I don't know, that's just what I'm getting from this. I'm hoping that, because I really loved both of those books. I just love a good domestic thriller. Next, we have The Good Part, written by Sophie Cousins. This is also set to be released on November 7th. This is following Lucy. She is 26 and she is tired. She has a job she doesn't really like. She has some roommates she doesn't really get along with, and she's just ready to get to the good part of her life. So during a sudden storm, Lucy finds herself in a very tiny shop that has a very curious wishing machine. She uses her last coin to make a wish. Let me skip to the good part. Well, the next morning she wakes up next to a handsome husband, a high-powered job, 2 beautiful kids, and her 40-year-old face. She has to figure out if she actually skipped this part of her life or is just forgotten a huge chunk of her life. As she's settling into this new life, she asks herself, can she go back? And if so, does she really want to? I'm getting a little bit of like Midlife Library or In 5 Years kind of vibes from this one. I really like the idea of characters like unsatisfied with their life and given this opportunity to see what their life could possibly be like and see if they're satisfied. Is it really what they wish for? Is this really what they want in their life? I'm really hoping that this one is going to be a thought-provoking story. I haven't ever read from Sophie Cousins, but I have heard good things about their other novels, so I'm excited to pick this one up. Obviously, I'm excited about this one. So on November 7th, we are going to get the release of Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. This is going to be the second book in the Empyrean series. Don't really want to say anything about this one because anything I could say is potential spoilers based on the first book, but I've already got my pre-order, I'm waiting for it, and I'm definitely going to be reading it when it gets here. So my final highly anticipated book for the fall season of 2023 is going to be The Kingdom of Sweets by Erica Johansson. This is set to be released on November 28th. So this is a retelling of the Nutcracker following 2 sisters, Natasha and Clara. Both of them were raised by a very rich and magical godfather. He favored Clara, so she grew up with beauty and ease while Natasha lived in her shadows. On one Christmas Eve, Natasha is given the chance for revenge when their godfather brings home the Nutcracker, which is basically a door that will open up to another world known as the Kingdom of Sweets. There, Natasha is presented with power greater than she's ever known and discovers a dark destiny that was laid before her birth. She must reckon with her powers of both earthly and magical and decide which world she really belongs in. I'm really excited about this one. I think it's just going to be the season of retellings. I've never read a retelling of the Nutcracker, but I loved the Nutcracker ballet when I was a child, and I think that this will just be really good moving into the winter season with Christmas and having a good retelling read. Alright, my friends, so those are all of the books that I'm looking forward to being released in fall, in September, October, and November. There were so many more on my list. I just, like, anything being released during this season sounds interesting to me, but I decided to narrow it down for this video. Let me know in the comments any books that you are looking forward to being released this fall. I'm always looking for new recommendations and things to put on my never-ending TBR. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe, do all of the things. If you like bookish and lifestyle content, you are in the right place. Hope you're having a wonderful time out there and that your day is full of spooky moods and good vibes. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!